Hi, today is Friday, January 24th, 2025, and it's time for another Flosstube video. Hello and welcome. My name is Marissa. This is MKissa Creations here on YouTube, or as we like to call it in our little stitchy circle, Flosstube. This is our little cozy corner of YouTube where we talk about cross stitch mostly. A lot of us are multicraftual and have a couple other crafts to show you. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about quilts and quilting a little more than I normally do. I will put that closer to the end, but there will be a little quilty segment and also a sewing segment today. I've actually been branching out in my crafting. January has felt like a long month, and I've gotten a lot done because of that. So today we've got a new start, we've got some plans, we've got a bunch of whips, some good progress on my snow day project, and a full coverage, which is always exciting, and then a couple other whips that we've seen recently and not as recently. And what else do I got for you? And I've got a swap to announce. And a sewing project, did I say that? I have a sewing project too. Okay, so let's get going. I think we've just been just a little like life catch up. We're just kind of living around here. It's been real cold, but I know it's been really cold for a lot of people. So nothing new. We live here in coastal southern Maine, and we have snow on the ground, which is exciting. I really don't mind the cold as long as there's snow on the ground. It bothers me when it's just cold and it's brown out. If it's cold and it's white out, I am extremely content. And we've just had right now like 4 inches hanging out that hasn't gone away because it's been so cold, and it's lovely. I don't know when we're supposed to get snow again. First they said Monday, then they said Wednesday, then they said next weekend. So I don't know when we're going to see that again, but today it's lovely and sunny out and just 25 degrees. So we're on the warmer side for where we have been. When I went to bring the girls to school the other day, it was 0. So that was a little bit more on the cold side. The little kids are having recess still, or they have been, because they're more likely to actually bundle up. My daughter goes to another school that is grades 3 through 5, and none of them want to wear their snow pants because they are not cool. So they've been having a lot of indoor recess or like abbreviated recesses where they kind of go out and they get to like run around for like 10 minutes instead of 30, and then they come in and do like inside stuff for a little bit too. So nothing too wild here. We are very lucky. Please continue to keep California in your thoughts. Another fire broke out this weekend. I have a friend that is on the fires, and he thought he was going to get to go home pretty soon and then got sent out on a strike team for another fire. So it's just a lot for California and their family, the firemen, their families, and everybody that lives in those areas and that's affected. It's a lot. So just, again, California needs that big hug, so please keep giving it to them. And let's see. All right, I am coming to you from my stitchy corner of my living room. This is my stitchy spot right here. You can see my Lowry. I have a nice little collection of orts on the end of the couch, much to the chagrin of the people that I live with. The other day I was looking for some floss that I lost, and I was like sitting on the like the front mat in our kitchen where you like walk in on the side door, and I was like, oh, there's my color that I've been missing. So that's fun. I feel like we've all experienced that, where you like pulling floss off of your clothes or off of your husband's back because they, you know, have like walked away from whatever area they were in and you had taken over it before. But yeah, so let's see. All right, let's talk about my new start first. I started Keeper of the Pins on the 21st. The reason that we picked that date was because it was like I looked at the calendar of all the like funky dates, like what those days are. you know, like National Donut Day, National Cake Day, National Pie Day, and it was like National Crafter Baker Maker Day. And so it seemed appropriate for that when we wanted to start it in January. So Stacey from Bluebird Paper and Crafts and I decided to start this as a SAL because we both have had this book lying around just kind of waiting. And it's been in my like new starts in 2025, or it was in my 2024 to start bag, and now is in my 2025 to start bag, and it needed to get started. So it's Keeper of the Pins from Brenda Gervais is the book. It's an ongoing SAL, so I will be like starting more of them. I don't know when. I almost sapped this. I just need to add the little pins, and it calls for some seed beads, so I need to try to find some in my collection that will work, but I finished this last night. I started with, what is this one called? Threads of Time Pin Cushion. And I started it on a piece of 25 count Lugana that I started a long time ago, and I coffee tea dyed it, and it shrank down. It is just about a 28 count, so this is bigger than, like, I think the called for is 36 count in here. Yeah, and it would stitch up to like 2 by 3 inches. This is more like 3 by 4 inches. But I finished this little guy. Pretty good on the colors. The spool of thread is not as ghosty as it might look on here. But yeah, so I got this one done. If you would like to join us in getting some of these stitched up and out of your to-do pile, the hashtag over on Instagram is KeeperSal. Very short and simple. We also have, who else is doing it? Kim, Contented Needleworker Kim. Contented Needleworker Kim is also working on this. She's working on the little lady, and she made her dress pink, which is so cute. Let's see if I can find her without having a where'd it go? She's working on this little cushion right here, and she made her dress pink, and it looks really, really adorable. So go check her out. And then Stacey is working on the one with the bird that you can see on the front pretty well, actually. This one right here. That's the one that Stacey's working on right now. So we got a decent little SAL started on there. So come join us. Post with the KeeperSal hashtag. The details will also be below, and tagging anybody who has either tagged us. Hopefully that group of people will grow, and you can check out some more of those stitches. All right, next I was like feeling the call of full coverage. So my tablet died in like November, and when my tablet died, I lost all of my progress on my full coverage patterns, and it was really, really sad, and it was kind of rough to put the stitches all back into new Pattern Keeper. But I received a new tablet for the holidays from my mom, and I was able to put the stitches back into Pattern Keeper. And in doing so, though, I really wanted to start on one of them and make sure I had all of my edges done correctly because of the way that I stitch. I was not able to just mark off like full blocks or diagonals or things like that, so I really had to go in and look at the way that I'm stitching. Speaking of full coverage, so Stephanie and Allison from Cross Stitch the Globe, especially Allison because she has, I think, more experience stitching full coverage, just did a awesome video on like to grid your own fabric or to buy gridded fabric. They didn't cover the like people that don't grid their fabric really, because that's not their I don't think that's not their realm, although I think Stephanie might have stitched one not gridded, but I don't grid my fabric. I stitch in a kind of typewriter method like Stitchin' Mommy, I think, but a little bit different. It made it difficult for this loss. If you stitched on gridded fabric, this situation would have been a lot easier, but I do find that my stitching goes faster than when I used to grid. And I did do the sulky method once upon a time on a very old whip that I ended up trashing. And I didn't mind it, but it did leave lines from where I stopped, if I stopped in the gridded boxes. And I just don't stitch that way where I'm gonna stop in a box. I just like to finish my color out, so sometimes I just want to be able to go further, but I will only go as far as I can either like really feel like I can count confidently, or if I have an anchor to count off of. So in the beginning it's a little bit dicey, but once you get really going, you definitely have a lot more anchors to count off of, and it's not an issue. But if you wanted to color complete across your whole project, you definitely, especially for something like this, which I'm going to show you, you would definitely need gridded fabric. And even then, I don't know if I would trust myself to count that far on a lot of the stuff. So I'm happy with my not gridded fabric, but check out their video because they did a great comparison of which kind of gridded fabric to use, or if you want to grid your own fabric, or when you would do that, and what to use. I will say from my experience, if you're going to use the sulky like silver, that works really well to grid your own fabric with, but big but, use the silver, don't use another color. I used red on mine, and when I pulled the floss out, it definitely left some marks of like color, and I was stitching on a really dark piece, so it wasn't as obvious, but I feel like if you were stitching on a piece that had lighter colors, you could really put yourself into a little bit of a bind with leaving some color shadows on your fabric, or actually on your, it would be on your stitching, it wouldn't even be on the fabric because you're using it for full coverage. And if you're not using it for full coverage, then it will be on your fabric. But yeah, okay, so let's talk about the full coverage. So the full coverage that I worked on was Tiki Beach Sunset. I'm going to put a picture of the finish right there. It is by Aimee Stewart. It is charted by HAED. And it's a big one. Total stitches, it is 362,408. I apparently just restarted my tablet, so I can't tell you what percentage I'm at. I'm a little bit over 4%, I know that. And I put in 3,190 stitches from the last time you saw this, which was my whip parade, in over 7 days. So I'm gonna put a picture here of where this was in my at whip parade time. And I am going to show you where I am now. So I'm gonna hopefully have enough room for all of that on the screen. And then I'm gonna show you what I worked on. So I worked up here a lot, filling in this roof. So what I did was I worked along all of the edge parts that I had before to make sure that I had marked off everything that I already had. I really had only missed a couple stitches, so the stitch count that I'm giving you does include a couple of missing stitches that I didn't mark off when I first tried to re-put this into Pattern Keeper. But I worked a lot like down here. I closed in a lot of like missing ninja stitches and white space here. I got a lot more filled in on some of these tree leaves here. I worked on this, it's like a bamboo wind chime, and then the shell like wind chime is there, and that one's gotten a lot more filled in. I've got some green out into here, and again just really worked on filling this like beam that goes across, got filled in a little bit more. So I'm pretty excited because coming up, the next time I pick it up, there's a another lantern right here, but it is like so much just one color. It is like block stitching. And this whole thing, that's what I want to talk about the most. This whole thing has been confetti. there has not really been any real like color block stitching that has existed in this project yet. So I am super excited for that to happen because it's going to be like 400 stitches of just like pure bright blue that is going to make me so happy when I get to. So again, the way that I stitch is I kind of pick, I like kind of look into the diagonal I do look into the diagonal and I look and find like where I'm missing a stitch and I grab that color and then I work out that stitch as far as I can without traveling too far. I'll show you the back of my project. It's not terrible for how much I tend to travel. It's not the neatest thing, but it's also not a disaster, which if you stitch a disaster back, that's okay too. It's your own piece and no one's gonna see it. But here's the back. So you can see like where I've traveled, and there's probably parts over here that got covered up where I had traveled far before. But it's not terrible. Like, it's gonna get covered up. There's a couple little like weird crosses, but not too far, not too bad. I really love this stitch. It is though so confetti heavy. I mean, it is just pure confetti. But once you start really like, I don't know, that's why I like stitching. That's why I like stitching with this method, because when I get tired of an area or I get tired of a set of colors, I get tired of working on like these trees down here, you know, you're like seeing like, and I don't know if it's like really showing all that well. These trees or like the roof, you get tired of that, you just move to another spot and pick another color to go with and run with it. And that's really been my favorite thing. And then also just, if you're a full coverage stitcher, especially a HAED stitcher, because I feel like HAEDs are kind of a little bit on the darker side, it seems like. When you're like sitting there looking at you know, your project like this for 2 hours or 7 days, and then you like pull it off and you hold it up like this and it looks like a real picture. It's a full-on Monet. From far away it looks great, but up close it's just a big old mess. I think it's just really, like, I really love that part of full coverage. And so this one has really started to, like, especially this, like the ceiling here has really happened. And then seeing what the palm trees are actually starting to look like, I like could not envision them happening. I was like, what is this pink and what is happening here? And even if you're looking at the cover photo, like you still are kind of like, what? Like what part am I actually working on? Unless it's like the iguana, and then like that was very clear when I was stitching him, like what he was going to be. But so that is where I'm at with my HAED, with this HAED. I have one other one that I know I've missed a ton of stitches marking off because that one is a little bit more color blocky. And again, because of the way that I stitch, it didn't make it easy to catch back up to where I was. So at some point I will revisit that one. I'm in the mood to pick this one back up still, so that may or may not happen. I am enjoying the full coverage aspect of it, and enjoyed kind of just chugging along on that. So we'll see. This weekend I have not cross-stitch stitching plans, so I will talk to you about those in a little bit, but let's keep going with whips. My ongoing whip that I've been chugging along on is 324 by Works by ABC, Arlene Cohen. This project is beautiful. I worked on it only for 2 stitching days. I added 9 motifs, and I think from the last time I showed it, a lot of those are actually not like kind of out into this realm. I went to Joann's to pick up supplies for my other project, and I did end up buying a few skeins that I was missing from some interior spots. I still have some more of those that I do need to use to fill in. Actually, I think up here might have been one of them. But yeah, so I definitely have, is this the right way? Yeah, it's the right way. I've definitely been making progress, but not a ton. I just really enjoy stitching it, and so it's not like a rush project for me, and sometimes I just like putting in those 1 to 2 motifs. Well, this time I put in, so what did I say? I said it's not 9 and 2 stitching days. I think one of the days I did 3 and one of the days I did 6. So it really kind of just depends on the mood for that day and how I'm feeling about the stitching, but it, yeah, it's moving along quite well. All right, then it snowed. Like I said, it snowed. My snow day / precipitation day project is the Shores of Hawthorne Hollow. Here is the big picture. This is by Carriage House Samplings. And I finished the first block. So it was like a snow day, and it was like kind of yucky out, and we didn't have much else to do, and so we definitely stayed in. So actually all I had left on this block was to stitch the seagulls. So I got them all completed. Seagulls are in. Again, I've left the eyes out of the sun, and then I stitched the entire border of this block and all of this seaweed and a little bit of the coral that's over here. This seaweed actually still has an accent color that needs to be added to it. And there's a border that goes around the inside of the whole block that I have not gotten to yet. That seaweed was rough. It felt like it took, I think I actually worked on this for 2 days. Did it rain a day or did I don't know. Or maybe I just picked it up and I worked on it a lot during the day and then like made dinner and then worked on it at night. I don't remember. I only marked 1 day on my tracker, but that sometimes, I don't know, did I? Let's see. Yeah, I only marked 1 day on my tracker. I think I must have worked on this for 2 days. It can't have just been 1. Maybe it was. I don't know. The seaweed felt like it took forever though. It was a lot of counting and wiggling around and, but it's right, so I'm happy about that. It does have like an accent color. Like I said, there's another color that needs to go in there. I am stitching it with the called for DMC conversion. It was charted in needlepoint silk originally, and again, working in DMC. Let's see. Next, oh, Lola Crow cross stitch. She posted like a little teaser of her next SAL. And so I was like, well, and I think it's going to be birds, maybe an aviary or maybe a zoo. So it might not just be birds. If it's mostly birds, like there's no way I'm not going to do it. So I really felt like I need to get going on Deadly Aquarium and try to get it finished. So Deadly Aquarium, I only worked on it for 1 day, but I put in 527 stitches, which I feel like is pretty good. I'm not taking it out of the Q-snap because I want to encourage myself to work on it a little bit more. So I got the little sign done and part of these tide pulls done, and I connected, I think I had some black missing right here to connect the inside of this cave. So just going to kind of work on the tide pools and bring in the cave up right here. I have some back stitching that I need to take care of. I've been trying to do the back stitching as I have come along. This fabric is Frozen Fractals by Fabrics by Steph. It is 40 count. And I just love this project. So, her designs are just so intricate and beautiful. I feel like it doesn't ever show up on pictures. The vibrant like nature of it doesn't show up on pictures as much as I really want it to, but it is just, I don't know, it's so beautiful. And so I really want to get it done so that I can buy the new SAL guilt-free and start it without this one kind of like hanging over my head. That is something that I've toyed with my whip list, is like only having one by like each designer. But again, I have 3 long dogs going and none of those are going to get finished anytime soon. And I just told Abby that I would start 7th wave in February. So it's not a rule that I apparently can put across all designers. Or maybe Log Dog will just be the exception and I will try my darndest to keep the rest like a single designer, and yeah, but there's no way. Death by long dog, as I like to say, and throw at Abby too. She just finished one. She just, check out her Instagram. She has not done a Flosstube in a while, and I don't think is planning on doing one anytime soon. But she just finished Jack Be Nimble, the long dog, and posted a picture of it yesterday, and then posted a floss toss for 7th Wave. So, well on her way to starting a new one. Okay, that was it for all of my whips. Well, all of my cross stitch whips. I have another whip to show you. So I was kind of showing up on my Instagram when I was making them. I had a friend commission me to make some tigers for her, some stuffed tigers. They are from Huggable Patterns on Etsy, which I will link below. I still have hand stitching to do, so all of the stripes are hand stitched on them. But I finished stitching, look at their cute little bodies, and they look like hobs. So like this one, you can see this bottom stripe is still pinned on, but the rest of his stripes on his head are sewn. But they have stripes all over their arms and their body and their tails that I need to stitch on this weekend. And then I think also like the little kind of like mouth thing I need to back stitch on there. There aren't actually instructions on there for that part. The instructions on this pattern were absolutely amazing. I very reluctantly agreed to stitch these for my friend who commissioned me for them. She was kind of desperate. She hadn't been able to find anybody near her that was willing to stitch them for her, and I wasn't really willing to stitch them for her either. And I don't know, if you have ever had anybody ask you to make something for them or stitch something for them, a lot of times people don't realize the true like value of your time and like what things would actually cost to make. And so I gave her a price to like make sure to like essentially quell that and be like, she won't, there's no way. And she like came in higher than what I like threw at her. So I was like, all right, I guess I am making some stuffies. So they are made from fleece. I used the good stuff. I learned how to find the right side of fleece. I didn't know that before. So I searched on that and I put my sewing to the test, man. They turned out great. You can't like barely even see where their little backs sew up. And fleece is very forgiving. I was actually really, really scared to film or to sew with the fleece. And yeah, I think as far as this project goes, the sewing of all of the parts of them together did not take all that long, especially because I was doing 2 at the same time. So I feel like whenever you do that, you kind of, especially because you sort of like learn on one of them and then get the other one done. But I found that the cutting of all of their pieces for their bodies took a really long time, because fleece is not one that you're just like, it's hard to layer and cut it and get everything even when you're cutting out pattern pieces. If I was just cutting strips, it would have been fine, but I was not. I was cutting very intricate pieces. I actually have been cutting the stripes out as I go, just to make sure that I'm putting them all in the right spots according to where they're listed and according to the instructions. But I will say that this pattern, the Huggable Patterns, are super, super helpful. She offers like one pattern that's just instructions, like verbal or written instructions, and then there's another one that has pictures. The pictures are helpful, but also like they're helpful in like figuring out sides and which ways things go, and just making sure that you're doing it right if you don't have a ton of experience with like making a stuffed animal. But these guys are big and they're so cute and I love them so much. And my kids are like, you're gonna make those for us too, right? And I'm like, ugh. I don't know if I'm gonna make them for them, but they really want them. So these are my little tigers. These are what I'm gonna be sewing on this weekend. I need to hand sew the rest of all these stripes on so I can send them to my friend. And they can give them to the, they're like a baby shower gift, I think. So I will send those. I I also want to announce my quilting swap. So I am going to undertake a swap. I am a little apprehensive, but I want to do this because I would like to benefit from the swap, and I would like to benefit other people to benefit from the swap. So I'm going to open this up. If I get over 20 people, I will probably shut it down, but I'm going to leave the sign up open until the 28th of the month. 28th? No. I'm going to leave the sign up open until, excuse me, today is the 24th. That's like not enough time. I'm going to leave the sign up open until Valentine's Day, February 14th. The sign up will be open till Valentine's Day, February 14th. On the 19th, you will receive 5 names of people that you need to send 10 2-inch squares to. Everybody will send 10 2-inch squares to 5 people, and then they will receive 10 2-inch squares from 5 people. So, US only. You must be over 18. And please, smoke-free homes. Fabric, especially already cut fabric, is really difficult to get especially smoky smell out of. I know there are ways to do it, but we're not putting that on other people right now. So smoke-free home, and what was my other caveat? Oh, no, there's no like stipulations on what type of fabric, like pattern wise or color wise right now. I just want to test it out with a open swap, but it does need to be like cotton, quilting cotton. So you're going to send 10 2-inch squares, no pinking shear cut, just regular, a 2-inch even cut. Please use your rotary cutter, make these squares that you would like to receive to also be able to sew. If you're cutting something that should be fussy cut, think about doing that, but you don't have to. But yeah, so we're going to do 2-inch squares. So I am going to link the Google sign up form in the box below. So please come and sign up for that if you would like to sign up for that. I mentioned in another video, I'm collecting squares to make a postage stamp quilt. So a postage stamp quilt is a quilt that is made up of little tiny squares. Sometimes they're a 1.5-inch square so that it goes down to a 1-inch square, like the actual size of a postage stamp. I am making mine with 2-inch squares, so they will be 1.5-inch when sewn down with the seam allowance. But my real goal is to be able to do it without any repeating fabrics. So that is why I am organizing a swap with all of my friends to try to attain a ton of different fabrics. So that's the other rule. Sorry. In each package of 10 squares, all of those 10 squares should be different. This is not meant as a sign up to like go out and spend money and buy fabric. This is meant as a sign up for those of us that have like scrap bags and small amounts of quilt fabric that we are not going to use for a full quilt that we have already either cut down. Like I am keeping my fabric scraps in already cut down sizes. So I have 2-inch squares, 3-inch squares, and 5-inch squares. When I can cut down like a small remnant of fabric in my house. So this is not meant for you to go out and buy like a bunch of fat quarters and cut it down. I don't want anybody to have to, this is not like a money spendy swap. This is just send the squares, send a nice little note. You don't need to send anything else. It's not a extras and swap package swap. It is just 10 fabric squares and a happy quilting, and hopefully we'll all get to kind of share with each other what comes out of all of that. That being said, I did want to share a little bit about my quilts because I am in my stitching corner. I have my like quilt ladder right here. I scored that quilt ladder at my favorite antique store in Arundel in Maine. I got it for like $25. It was, I think, part of a larger ladder that was cut in half. It is an old used ladder. The rungs have like dents and divots where people's feet have been. I did clean those off and there was a lot of dirt on them, which I learned kind of the hard way. I put a quilt on there first and then realized after the fact that probably should clean this first. So I guess if you buy yours pre-made from Crate and Barrel, which you probably pay like 6 times as much for, but you won't have dirt on it. But it's very authentic looking. And then aside from my quilts, I also have this cool bobbin garland that I made, thread garland that I made. I made that from old spools of thread and the little wooden balls from, like bead balls from Michael's. I think you can get them at Joann's too. I actually found mine at Goodwill. And then I used macrame thread to do the other part. So, I recently finished a quilt, but because I finished it, I think the Thursday before Christmas, no, the Friday before Christmas, I literally finished it in the morning, put it in the washing machine, took it out and like ran it to the post office to try to make sure it was going to be there before Christmas. It got there on Tuesday, so they were able to open it on Christmas morning, and that made it worth it, but I don't have a picture of it. So if while I'm editing my niece happens to send me a picture of it, I will put it in. But I like revamped the bird's quilt and made it my own little colorway for a surprise baby that they didn't know what the sex was going to be when the baby was born. So I made the Elizabeth Hartman bird's quilt, and then I like scaled it down, which she does for you, but then I changed the colorways to my own colorways to make it a rainbow quilt. So she gives you a full size, like king size quilt, and then she also gives you what a baby quilt like layout would be. The other quilt that I have in my lap right now is my husband's Star Wars quilt that I made for him. This has been living on our bed because it is, it's flannel, the backing is flannel. So over the years, I just collected a lot of Star Wars fabric, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a Star Wars quilt. And so I did, like, this is applique. So I made that pattern just from, you know, a Rebel, or not a Rebel, Imperial seal. But like, there's just, you know, a bunch of different random Star Wars fabric, you know, that I found. And then also, let's see, it's another, is there another interesting block on here? I think I did, thought there was a Millennium Falcon on here somewhere. Oh yeah, here's the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon is paper pieced. That pattern is available on Fandom and Stitches. Jennifer Offenstein, she did that. Jen. She's like a way back crafter. This is a Swirly Girl Designs quilt. I have done 2. This one down here is also Swirly Girl Designs. It's a, I think it's called Perfect 10. I have never done it the way that they suggest doing it, and I think it's like you take 10 fat quarters and cut them up. I've always just kind of like done with what I have and cut up a bunch of fabric. There are a couple, like when you're putting the rows together, there's a couple sections that like need to match up. Like this, so like this rectangle block is a full rectangle. This rectangle block is 2 squares. So what I did was I just took a photocopy of the pattern and then colored where my like crossovers needed to be. And so I was successful in making that happen that way. So those are like, this is the quilt that's getting used the most often right now in our house. And then this quilt is, speaking of way back in the day, so this quilt is from a live journal group. We did, it was a birthday block group, and we all picked our preference on quilt blocks. So mine, I said I would like an aqua and blue nautical theme. That's the middle block of the quilt. And then we each, for our birthday months, sent each other a quilt that fit, or a quilt block that fit the theme. And so then we were able to put together our own quilt from all of our friends. And then this one right here is my wedding guest book. I made all the little jars and put them out in a basket and put some waterproof like pens out for everybody. I sewed the jars with the muslin, and so the only seam allowance that I needed to account for people not writing in was like the bottom one. And I did make a line at the 1/4 inch mark and wrote with also like, do not write here, like, and made it so that people would stay within the seam allowances so that I wouldn't lose any of the messages. So then probably like a year after our wedding, I put that together, and now we have our wedding guest book as a quilt. All right, so that is my quilty stuff for the day. So if you are interested in the quilt block swap, and if you want more info on postage stamp quilts, I mean, I definitely do the Google, but like we could talk about postage stamp quilts more. I don't know like how many people are super interested in that in the Flosstube world, but I like to spread my crafts out, so we will craft more. If you have any questions about the tigers, let me know. I will link the Etsy shop for Huggable Patterns down below if you're interested in making one of those for yourself. She quotes about 10 hours per Stuffy, including the hand sewing. I think it's probably going to be a little bit longer than that. I would say cutting and putting together the bodies for 2 of them took me, actually maybe it will be about 10 hours. I think it probably took me like 3 hours each. So not terrible, but it was like a long day of sewing of stuff that I'm not really like all that used to sewing, but it happened and it's fine. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Oh, check out for the gridded fabric, Cross Stitch the Globe, and then also they just put out the revamp of their most expensive patterns video, which is just fun to watch. There are some on there that I absolutely love. I'm surprised though one of mine didn't make it, but I think probably because of the re-releasing from Birds of a Feather. I think people are probably a little bit wary of buying Birds of a Feather patterns at high prices right now. They haven't reprinted the one that I really want, so I'm hopeful that that happens. But yeah, check those videos out, and I'll talk to you later. See you in 2 weeks.